Oh, clean transition. Thank you, Gonzo, also for all those gifted subs. You see that down there. Pickley, welcome, welcome. Uh, Tatsu, poison was the cure. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Poison was the cure. That sounds like an edgelord name. I don't know if it is, but it definitely has that vibe. Poison was the cure. Very cool. Very cool. Free to play games have a huge image problem, right? It is the most influential and arguably the most important development in the business of games in decades, and a super successful innovation, which has enabled the opening of games to a wider audience than ever. Implemented with a clear understanding of its principles and a proper respect afforded to players and creativity alike, it's more fair and even in a sense democratic than official old game models that just demand a front-up payment. In theory, players pay in proportion to their enjoyment, handing over money in small transactions for a continued deepened relationship with a game that they already love, rather than giving a large amount of cash up front for a game that they've already only seen screenshots and videos. Well, this is a fair description, I think, of the potential free-to-play. It's quite clearly not the image that you see in the business model that bears right now. You probably scoffed at about half a dozen times I was just talking. It may be a fair description of free-to-play, at hypothetical at best, but it almost certainly is at odds with most people's perception. How then might we describe the perception of free-to-play? Greedy, exploitive, unfair, cheating? Once these adjectives start rolling, it's hard to get them to stop. The negative view of free-to-play is that it's a series of cheap psychological tricks designed to get people to spend money compulsively without ever realizing quite how much cash they're wasting on what is ultimately a very shallow and cynical game experience. Okay, that was a hell of an intro. What do you guys think of free-to-play? Positive, negative, or neutral?
Yeah, no, for me, I mean, I kind of have a very neutral thought whenever it comes to free to play, like, because we've got a couple of them on here that I actually have enjoyed. Like, I really did like Clash of Clans for a while there. As far as mobile games go, it was a pretty fucking fun one. And, you could have grinded or you could have paid a little bit if you really enjoyed it. I mean, Apex Legends, Fortnite, those are all ones that come to mind. So it's one of those where, like, I really don't have too negative of a view of free to play games, but it's also not the most positive. I know that they're trying to just cash grab as much money from me as they can with the shiny new objects that I'll be bored of the next month. I probably spent well over a couple of $100 on fucking Fortnite just to, like, never play it again. I haven't played it in months, if not a year. So
yeah,
but yeah,
for real. I mean, see, I don't know. Obviously, the intro was written to be dramatic. I don't actually have that negative view of a lot of free-to-play games that I think out there. When I think of Apex, when I think of Pokemon Unite, for example, I think that those games are pretty upfront. Pokemon Unite recently got in trouble because it's pay to win, and I think that is when, or people are accusing it of being pay to win, when you get into that territory, that's when the free-to-play model, to me, really starts getting into a negative approach. Brawley,
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you think of free-to-play games? Positive, negative, or neutral?
Initially, pretty negative, and I think it's for the exact thing that you just mentioned, the play to win, where people who pay to win, because people who are paying for certain upgrades or skill sets, like, they have a clear advantage over other players. So when it goes into that, I think that it's just, I don't like it. And I also feel like just going into a game like that, it's just an advertisement. Like, you're constantly getting these ads to buy the next new thing or to save a little bit of time or to not have to wait so long and to get this really quickly. I don't like it. I'd rather just upfront pay for a game. That game is mine. I even have a problem nowadays games have so many, like, DLCs that you don't ever buy a complete game. So I just want to buy my game, play my game. I don't need you to give me ads for these other things that I could have with my game. And if that means that I'm always paying for games, then so be it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for the most part. I think pay to win is when it becomes a problem, but I'm not necessarily opposed to a free-to-play game model, and I do think that free-to-play games are usually ones that are held like a patch will come out for a free to play game a lot quicker than a patch will come out for a console game, typically, in my opinion. Especially if the console game is broken, like the whole cyberpunk thing, like that how that whole debacle happened. I don't see that happening in free to play models because they're usually tested in beta for long periods of time beforehand, and they're constantly in a mode of testing, and so you have tons of data on how to make these games better. But so I guess actually my view of free to play games is probably fairly positive.
See, I like pay to win games too. I think there's a lot of negativity around that, but I really think you guys should just get your money up. You know what I mean? Like, get your money up. Like,
right. I mean, if capitalism is the game, then whoever is winning in a free to play game is able to show that better, right? You know, and capitalism's always the game.
Exactly. If you're winning that game, then you should be able to pay to win. Play whatever game you want, man.
The free-to-play model lets players try new games without spending a lot of cash, but microtransactions are bleeding into fixed-priced games. For better or worse, free-to-play games are shaping the way developers and distributors make their games. Have you guys seen a drop in quality since moving to a free-to-play model? Brahma, let's start with you.
I can't think of any like specifics, like examples, but I do think that, I mean, how could it not drop the quality? Because if the game developers are making less on the game itself, then they can't afford as many of those like quality checks or as much time or as much of that grind that goes into the game. So just, yeah, I don't see how it couldn't affect the quality.
I mean, I don't know, because like sometimes free-to-play games make more money than regular games. I mean, Fortnite's a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
that's true. That is true.
Made Epic $1 billion corporation. You know, from a free game.
Yeah. So and Clash of the Clans, Pokemon Go. I know I've paid way more than $60 for Pokemon Go, and that is a cell phone game. You know. Yeah. So like there are aspects of free-to-play games that really, but at the same time, like. I also like Pokemon Go is literally the only cell phone game that I have and still play. It's the only mobile game that I have and still play. So
I have it even though I didn't download it.
Yeah, there is something to be said about the fact that it still had that kind of longevity, and I've played it enough to buy, to spend money on it. So that has to be something. I don't know if I see the games like Unite, is a brand new free to play game. I think that's a pretty good quality game. I was surprised at its launch, so I don't think I have seen a big drop in quality since moving to the free to play model. But Jake, what do you think?
I don't really play any games that have moved to a free to play model. I mean, I have some games that definitely have microtransactions and things that you would think are free to play, like baked into them.
Right.
And I think like some of those games are obviously. Nothing sucks worse than like how basically every sports game is now the same game you had the year before, except with a little bit better graphics. And then they make you pay $60, but then you also have to have a bunch of microtransactions within the game if you really want to compete within like, Madden Ultimate Team or even like a few other game modes in 2K. And so it's really kind of a plague in the sports games arena where they're still $60 games, but they've moved to free to play models within $60 games.
Yep. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Any way they can make more money. I mean, EA is going to do it. That's for sure.
Oh, it's EA. EA are fucking skeevy, man.
Right. They looked at their model and like, oh wait, we were just selling the same game for $60 every year. This is a much better model. Okay.
And then somebody said, wait. Why not both?
Why not both? Yeah. Why not both? What games do you guys think have done it best? What's the best free to play game out there? Jake?
I mean, for me, I think a couple of them. You got to shout out to Rockstar. I think like while they have obviously they sell us a $60 awesome story game in GTA 5 and in Red Dead Redemption, they've branched off and removed their online part of that game and made it a free to play version. And those worlds are fucking huge and expansive because you're playing basically Red Dead, but it's just Red Dead Online and you can play it for free. Yeah. And it's the same with GTA 5. And I think those guys have really done a good job of just continually pumping out content for those things, especially GTA 5. Jesus Christ, it's going on, 10 years? I think GTA 5's been like pumping out content for a decade now. And
That's
so
crazy.
those are some of the big ones. But I mean, obviously Fortnite, I think they pretty much set the tone when it came to battle royale games. And they changed the game for a lot of folks. They may be stealing players' content now, but it's not because they didn't also have their shit stolen by like everyone else in the industry for a minute there.
Right. I mean, Spellbreak is Fortnite with magic.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen me play those games before?
I watched you play it on your stream. It was actually a pretty cool looking game, but yeah, it was Fortnite with magic.
Yeah, it was Fortnite with magic, and no building stuff, which I like. I don't like the building stuff.
Yeah,
The
fuck
building
building.
part. The
What do I
building
look
part
like?
is
A
the part that-
carpenter?
Right. I never got that about Fortnite.
Am I a farmer? Lemon? Jesus.
Yeah. Anyways, I think, personally, one of the ones I'm playing right now that I think has done a really well job is Unite. People have complained about its things, but as little as Nelly said earlier in the chat, Unite is pay to win quick, but there isn't anything that you can't access without payment, and I think that was summed up pretty accurately there.
Yeah, life is pay to win.
Right, and like there. It's not hard to get one character and their items up to level 20 to where you're going to be able to compete on a level where you can still rank up without paying for anything. I think that's absolutely possible. And also at the same time, like there's a degree of like if you're enjoying something, like tip your waitress. Give credit to the people that actually do make the games when there is something that you are enjoying, and I think that to me is the biggest challenge with any free-to-play game is whatever they're offering as their kind of how they make their money. Is it something that's objective to the game? In essence, is it pay to win, or is it something that is just like, hey, this is kind of how you can kind of tip your hat to the producers or tip your hat to the people that made this game and still enjoy it. If it's the latter, I can enjoy that kind of game. Among Us has been a fantastic free to play game. Let's see, Apex has been huge success. That one I do think is another better battle royale. Fortnite minus the carpentry completely and a little bit of Overwatch. That's a good one. Dota, as Caperdoodle's mentioning in chat, that's another great one as well. Bronwyn, do you have any free-to-play games that you think have done it really well?
So you kind of touched on it, but I think that Among Us does a great job because there's nothing about that gameplay that you can't enjoy and have like a full game experience. And you don't have to put anything else into it. Like you're not going to be able to like pay to get hints on like who the imposter is. Like maybe you have to buy some cool accessories, but you can still get everything out of that game without putting a cent into it. I think that is like truly a free game.
Yeah.
What games do you guys think are just cash grabs, straight up cash grabs? Bronwyn, we'll start with you.
This is kind of a random one, but and it's like part of like the EA game, so I'm sure like there's like a bunch of examples from them. But The Sims, I used to love The Sims, and that game was fucking awesome. And you used to be able to just like buy The Sims, and like you have this world, and you can play in it. But towards like the end, like when I stopped playing, it was just like, okay, like everything is an expansion. Everything is like another $50 game to get anything new in it. Oh, you want these like cool new items, you want these cool new like tools here, like give us money. And they're constantly advertising it just to even like boot up the game. Like there's 50 advertisements for like what you can buy.
No, that's honestly a fucking great example, Bronwyn. Like whatever example I was gonna give,
echoing in chat too.
Whatever example I could give just got dunked on by The Sims. I love The Sims. Don't get me wrong; it's one of my favorite games to play, and it is legit ridiculous how much of that shit is like DLC, right?
Yeah.
And how much it is. Like the bundles are the only way you can buy it, and the bundles are still like pretty fucking expensive. It's honestly like I don't know how much money you would have to put in to buy every part of the Sims expansions by now. But another one, and
I put
gave
money
him
towards it.
I
And it
gave
just
him
makes the
kudos,
computer
but
crash.
I gave him kudos, but I think somebody recently did the map, and I think it was like IGN or one of those guys, and it would be like somewhere around one. I think it was like $120,000 to buy every add-on to Grand Theft Auto 5 online.
Oh wow!
Like if you were to buy like every additional thing they've added, it would be over $100,000 in real world money.
My
That's
gosh.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so the ones that I think are just cash grabs, to me, any game that it's like a certain amount of resources, then you have to wait like 24 hours before you can do something. Clash of Clans, I know, was a big one with that.
Candy Crush, like Cape said,
Candy
that's
Crush,
a big one.
Candy Crush. I hate that mechanic. That is the worst fucking mechanic.
It's a shit one. The fucking like, oh, you have 3 lives and you don't get more until tomorrow. But if you pay $5, you get 4 more lives right now, and it's like, just
right. That is literally paying to relax, in my opinion. Like that's the part of the game that I want to be. When I play a game, I want to be able to turn it on and be able to play that game. Right. Yep. There are free to play games. I can play Unite for fucking hours and not have to worry about that whole thing. That is not like, what, for instance, like say like Clash of the Clans, with that whole like weight mechanic kind of thing. That's yep. my least favorite. Those are the ones I think are just cash grabs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know if this is necessarily a game, but like I get super annoyed with like Duolingo, all like they want me to buy more hearts. And I'm like, I'm just trying to like learn. I'm just trying to be smarter. I'm sorry I make a mistake. And then you punish me by taking away my ability to play you.
Yeah, that's dumb. That's big dumb, in my opinion. Even if microtransactions can be backed by good intentions, doesn't change the way that they feel to gamers, right? EA's own Mass Effect 3 Day 1 DLC had many fans up in arms. If the DLC was ready at launch, why wasn't it included in the game? Especially since it contained a character many longtime fans of the series were dying to see. Do you see microtransactions and DLC as the same or different practices? Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely look at them as similar but different. Same but different. Like microtransactions, they seem to be more of like smaller little things you buy. To me, DLC is usually like a larger piece of content. Like it's either like a new maps added to something, or like with a Ghost of Tsushima that I'm playing right now. Like you get a whole new story with line
and side, all this stuff.
Yeah, whole side missions. To me, that's DLC. And so, like, I definitely look at them as very similar practices, because they're obviously like transactions you make after you've bought the game for whatever price you've kind of like, already felt comfortable buying it at, whether that's 60, 20, whatever it may be, if it's free. But microtransactions feel like they're smaller transactions or smaller content pieces than DLC. But I remember when Mass Effect 3 came out, and that day 1 shit, nothing makes me more upset than them being like, and we have some day 1 DLC. It's like, that's not additional content then. Like you already had that made. Put it in the game, you fucking asshole.
Right. Do you see the same? Brum, what do you think? Do you see microtransactions and DLC as the same or different practices?
No, I totally agree with Jake. I think that it's like the size. It's when I think of microtransactions, it's exactly that. It's micro. It's something like just small that can kind of increase your enjoyment of a game, or add a little bit extra, or give you an edge. But when I think of DLC, I think of they're giving you like a bigger chunk of the game that you can kind of like add on to what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. But there has been a lot of problems in the past with microtransactions and DLC and things like that, especially when it comes to locking content behind a paywall, right? That's a big thing that a lot of people have a lot of problems with. One of the big examples I can think of is Darth Vader in Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Do you think it is fair to price lock important characters like Vader in Battlefront 2, Jake?
No, that's what gets fans all up in arms, right? Like I think the one in I want to say Mass Effect 3 was Garrus, or No. It was the assassin alien guy. I can't even think of his name right now. If Sax was here, he would be like, "Oh, it's that guy," and then I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, fuck, it is that guy." Anyway,
Yeah.
but like Darth Vader was the big one that made everybody up in arms. They were
Right.
like, you either had to pay an extra like $60 to $80, I think, in like in-game credits or whatever, or you had to play like some ungodly amount, like 120 hours or something, to unlock Vader. And so everybody, I remember Battlefront, that was whenever they got into a lot of their shit because they had price locked Vader. Like, yes, you can just play the game to unlock him, but it's like it's an unachievable amount of hours essentially for anybody that lives a normal life. Like, some of us are just casual gamers in a way, right? Like, not everybody gets to do it full time. And so, yeah, no, it's one of the most unfair practices, I believe, in modern day gaming has been price locking characters out for people.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
totally agree with that. Like, I am just appalled to even hear that they would do that, because this is coming as like this is the first time I'm hearing of it, so it's like a shock to me. I don't even know how they could allow that. It's ridiculous.
They eventually folded and made Vader just an open character. That's because the backlash was so heavy from that specific decision. Like that they were like, "Oh shit, we're our bad."
Yeah. Yep. Some reports frame the gaming industry as a largely manipulative one and attacks the industry as calculated pricing strategies, which can affect how we value in-game purchases. But these same strategies were also widely used in the restaurant industry. Even supermarkets are designed so that customers spend as much time as possible inside. Push notifications that encourage play and consumption have real-world equivalents too, such as scent machines at Disneyland used to boost cotton candy and caramel sales. Yet we don't think of this subtle technique as completely robbing us of our agency. So why does the video game industry draw so much criticism here, Brahman?
I think that it's just like maybe because it's like in your face, like in a more direct way, like subtly, because you are kind of seeing them as as literal ads. It's not as subliminal. But I think that, yeah, I think that. Have you guys seen the show? What is it called? Mythic Quest. Have you been watching that at all on Apple TV?
It's the guy Mac from Sunny is in it, right? Yeah.
Because I think that they touch on this in a really interesting way, because they do have like a character in there who like all his goal on the game is to like make money. Like he's like the kind of like just embodies all that like corporate advertising and like trying to like tie everything into the game just to like make money. And then you have like the developers who really are wanting to keep the game like authentic and like bring about an interesting story and an interesting game. So I think that, yeah, I mean, I would suggest that show to you too, if you want to kind of like see this concept explored a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Why do you think the video game industry draws so much criticism, Jake?
I mean, I think mainly because it's directed at children for the most part. Like, I get that like places like Disneyland and like other things, like the commercials are used, to sell us shit all the time. But if you're an adult and you see a commercial and you go, "Wow, that's dope, I'm gonna buy it," like that's cool. You're an adult. You can make that adult decision, right? But like, I feel like a lot of games, they draw so much of a younger audience that making things like essentially just slot machines for children, there's got to be, kind of a line there. And so I think that's why video game industry draws so much more criticism than any other industry. I think we see it we see a lot of policing even in YouTube content, TikTok content, like a lot of social content and stuff like that, because they know there's a shitload of kids on those things, right? And so I think that's the same reason that we see so much on, the video game industry, whereas you don't see it as heavily on movies or even music these days. Music's gotten, music used to be, Eminem's making everyone turn into school shooters. And so, like that's how or Marilyn Manson specifically. I mean, I don't know if everybody remembers the scariness of the 90s that was Manson, like is making people kill each other. But like now, and video games got that heat for a long time too. I think it resurfaced a little bit because even Trump was like, the video games are to blame. And like, but I think like at the end of the day, like they're looked at as very influential on the youth. And so that's why they get a lot of heat.
Yep.
Sorry, that was a very long answer for.
I think that's
it's
fair.
For kids. It's the children.
Kids, it's always, those are always going to get the most criticism. Do you guys feel like we're being manipulated? Brahman, do you think free to play games are manipulative?
I think we're always being manipulated. We just have to be aware. And like everyone's gonna try to, like, we live in a capitalist society. Everyone's like always gonna try to get our money, and people, and like even beyond that, like people are always gonna try to get things from you. And I mean, that's like kind of a cynical view, but I think if we're like aware of it and kind of take a step back and kind of see that it's happening, then we're not so susceptible to it. So yeah, shock, just we're being manipulated always. Sorry, it's life.
No, I mean, no, I agree. I think like we are all falling into, we've all bought into some sort of agenda. You know, we may not believe it, but at the end of the day, like we have bought into some sort of agenda. Like I own a lot of Apple products. It's somewhere in the back of my head, Apple makes a superior product than Samsung. Now, is that a fact? How the fuck if I know? Do I give a care? Do I want to take the time to look it up? Nah. Apple's advertisement sold me. You know, like, and so, you know, we're always being manipulated. But like Bronwyn said, as long as you kind of like are aware of it, I think that's, you know, that's where you just need to try to be a little bit more aware. Like, I think we all need to realize like almost everything's an advertisement nowadays, or a platform for advertisement. Like I've always said, social media, like Facebook is literally just so you can see like what people you went to high school with are doing in between advertisements for shit. And it's the same for YouTube. YouTube is literally just advertisements with some videos every now and then.
Nice. Yeah. No, I mean, that's exactly what it is now. And so I don't know. I don't think we're being manipulated. I think that, well, the kids in certain games that are advertised for a lot younger demographic, I do think that there is a bit of a predatory aspect to it, for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as, you know, like adults, you know, today, you know, we're like when I'm playing Unite, I don't think that I'm being manipulated. I know exactly what I'm getting when I buy the battle pass, you know, and I know what I'm, you know, kind of consenting to when I do that. So I would do that as well. So what's the future business model for games? It depends on the individual company and the product they're producing. Single player RPG seems like a fixed price. For a single player RPG, a fixed price model seems kind of right. That makes sense. But considering the popularity of online multiplayer, we're seeing fewer and fewer of them. As time goes on, the purely single player experience may fall by the wayside. Already, we're seeing more games implement multiplayer modes in previously single player games. And it's hard on gamers to not just buy games that use microtransactions. Some of our most beloved games in the series are heading down this path, and whether we like it or not, the content is worth the extra money. And whether we like it or not, the content is worth the extra money. That's an individual decision. You know, counting on a big name distributors not to do whatever they can to make money is counting on a big name distributors to do whatever they can to make money doesn't leave a whole lot of room for hope. But short of boycotting popular series and supporting games that do it right, there's a little gamers that can do, you know, waves of change, right? Is there any kind of solutions for game monetization outside of the free to play model, and then just the straight buy the game from GameStop model?
Yeah. I mean, I think there are. Oh, sorry. I mean, I think there are, but I think like really, if you really think about it, and Donkey actually made a video about this not too long ago, is the price of video games. While some people have complained, especially about the PS5 games going up to $70, if you account for inflation, like games have been $60 since the late 90s. So like it's kind of weird that games haven't increased in price a lot, especially like, you know, we hear a lot of people talk about, oh, like when Overwatch came out, everybody was all up in arms like, this isn't a fucking full $60 game. This should have been a free to play game kind of a thing, right? Yeah. And it was like, okay, but then like go back and look at a game that used to be $60 and tell me Overwatch isn't more of a game than that game. Like if you're looking at something from the early 2000s that was like maybe a game that took you fucking 10, 20 hours to beat and then that was it. Like that at the time you still paid $60 for that. We've been paying $60 for a game for a long time. And so like I think it's actually really interesting to me that we haven't increased in price. And I think the free to play model is probably here to stay just because of how well it monetizes a video game. And so it's going to be all about the individuals being able to learn how to, you know, have some restraint and hopefully not pay more than, you know, you can for games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that as well. I think the free to play model is here to stay. I don't know if there is a better solution for game monetization. Brahma, do you have any better solutions for game monetization than free to play or just buying it up front?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if this has been done. Maybe it has been or is in the works. But maybe do a similar model that cinema and TV is doing, like something like a subscription service to video games where you pay like a monthly fee of this amount. You get these games. There aren't in-game purchases. There aren't upgrades that you need. You have a complete thing, and you're just like paying a fee to be able to access them. Like I think that would be
Kind of like
a
an
better
Xbox Game
model.
Pass, but including DLC content in there with
ES
it.
Plus as well. I mean, I think that's the way that it's going to go. And we've actually seen Netflix is recently like they've been looking into how they can get into just like streaming, like mobile games is where they're going to be like kind of starting off at. But it's going to be interesting to see like if other places really pick up on like the Game Pass model and things like that. But yeah. No, or if Game Pass continues to expand. And so I think, Bron, when you're 100% right, I think we're eventually going to get to the video games are going to be similar to streaming services. You're going to pay a monthly like payment to Epic, and then you're going to get like you know, you're going to be able to access all of the games within Epic's library or whatever.
Yeah, I think that is something that could be possibly on the horizon too. And in some circumstances, I would want some of those games to remain free to play. Is what I would rather versus that type of monetization.
Because we gotta have free game Friday, right, baby?
We gotta have free game Friday. We gotta have free game Friday. You know, that's how it is. We play a lot of those free to play games on free game Friday. So, well, that will wrap it up for our deep dive this week on free to play games. If you want more free to play games, check out Free Game Friday here on Geek Life. We didn't have one this last week because we had some internet troubles, but we're playing some. What is it? Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, which is a really long
game,
title.
right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
Pretty much with like cyborgs, and I'm looking forward to eventually being able to play it and create my own custom character and